My boss's nephew was hired with no experience, and immediately demanded I train him, snickering. "You do the work while I get the paycheck." When I refused, he lied to HR and got me suspended, smugly saying, "That's what happens when you mess with someone who has connections." His face went pale when the CEO stated, "Congratulations, you're now the only employee ever banned from every branch of our company." I've been with this company, a mid-sized tech firm in Chicago, for over a decade. Starting as a junior developer, I worked my way up to senior project manager. I took pride in my work, always aiming for excellence. The company valued merit and hard work, or so I believed. Enter Alex, the CEO's nephew. Fresh out of college with a business degree but zero real-world experience, he was hired and assigned to my team. I first met him during a Monday morning meeting. He sauntered in late, wearing a smug grin, and took a seat without acknowledging anyone. I introduced myself and the team, outlining our current project and his role in assisting with market analysis and user feedback. Alex leaned back, arms crossed. "Let's get one thing straight. I'm here because of my connections. You do the work while I get the paycheck." The room fell silent. I was taken aback but decided to address it privately. After the meeting, I pulled Alex aside and explained that in our company, everyone is expected to contribute. He smirked and walked away. Over the next few weeks, Alex's behavior was disruptive. He missed deadlines, ignored emails, and often left work early. The team grew frustrated, and morale dipped. I documented his shortcomings and scheduled a meeting with HR to discuss Alex's performance. They assured me they would look into it. A few days later, I was called into an unexpected meeting with HR and the CEO. To my shock, I was informed that Alex had filed a complaint against me, alleging that I had created a hostile work environment. Despite my attempts to defend myself with evidence, I was placed on a 2-week suspension. As I packed up my desk, Alex approached, a triumphant look on his face. "That's what happens when you mess with someone who has connections." During my suspension, I contemplated my next steps. I drafted a detailed email to the CEO, outlining the situation, providing evidence of Alex's behavior, and expressing my dedication to the company's values. I sent it, unsure of what to expect. 2 days later, I received a call from HR, asking me to come in for a meeting with the CEO upon my return. When I entered the conference room, the CEO was seated at the head of the table, with HR representatives present. Alex was notably absent. The CEO spoke directly. "I've reviewed the situation thoroughly. Alex's actions were unacceptable and do not reflect the values of our company. Effective immediately, Alex is terminated and will be banned from any future employment within our organization." Relief washed over me. I returned to my position with renewed determination, and the team gradually regained its morale. The incident served as a reminder that while connections might open doors, true respect and success are earned through merit and integrity. I thought it was over after Alex got fired. Thought I could finally breathe again, focus on work, let things go back to normal. I was wrong. A week after I came back, things started feeling off. People I'd worked with for years started acting strange. Not everyone, but enough to notice. Conversations would stop when I walked into the room. A few people who always grabbed lunch with me suddenly had excuses. Meetings were quiet when I spoke. Too quiet. Then whispers started. Someone was telling people that I snitched to save my own skin. That I got Alex fired so I could protect my job. I tried to ignore it at first. Office gossip is annoying, but it usually fades. This didn't. It got worse. One afternoon, I found my desk covered in sticky notes. Dozens of them. All with one word written in thick black marker. Rat. HR claimed they were reviewing camera footage, but nothing ever came of it. A couple of teammates apologized quietly, said they didn't believe it, but most stayed silent. Then I found out who was behind it. Turns out, Alex wasn't the only relative of Mr. Thompson working in the company. There was another one, Nathan. Quiet guy, worked in a different department, but connected. Really connected. He was Alex's cousin and just as entitled, just more subtle about it. Nathan never liked me, and now I understood why. I'd embarrassed his family. Got his cousin kicked out. He didn't come at me directly, he was smarter than that. But he started planting seeds. Whispering to certain managers, poking holes in my project plans during cross-team meetings, suggesting maybe I wasn't handling leadership stress well after my incident. He even found a way to delay one of my project's launches by misrouting a critical client request. Made it look like I dropped the ball. I didn't have proof. Just enough suspicion to make me furious and powerless at the same time. And then came the worst part. I was called into another HR meeting. This time, it was about behavioral concerns. Apparently, a few employees were concerned I was creating a toxic environment. Same script as before, but this time, it wasn't Alex. This time, it was subtle. Anonymous complaints. Vague concerns. No one willing to come forward. Just enough noise to trigger a formal review. They didn't suspend me, not yet, but I was placed under performance observation. Weekly check-ins, manager shadowing, HR checklists. It was humiliating. I was angry. Really angry. But I wasn't going to lose to these people. So I started digging. I stayed late, pulled internal communications, cross-referenced dates. I remembered something Alex had said during his smug little tirade before I got suspended. You think you're clean, but you're just a worker bee. We run this place. That word, we, stuck with me. I found an old shared folder left open by mistake from Alex's short time on my team. It shouldn't have been accessible, but somehow, it was. Inside were documents, drafts of performance assessments, written by someone named Eliza, who worked in HR. And they weren't about him. They were about other employees, with weirdly detailed notes and recommendations that looked pre-written. Like they were preparing cases to push people out. Most of the names listed were managers who'd clashed with Thompson's family members at some point over the years. One had quietly transferred departments. One had left the company last quarter. And now, it seemed, I was next. It was a pattern. A cleanup operation. I made copies. Every file. Every email chain. Screenshotted timestamps. Then I dug deeper. I talked to the guy from IT who owed me a favor after I helped him cover a blown deadline years ago. I asked if he could pull a few archived server logs. Not emails, just access records. He didn't ask questions. 2 days later, he dropped a USB on my desk. What I found made my skin crawl. There were hidden file transfers from Eliza's account to Nathan's internal drive. One of them matched the same file I'd found earlier. That confirmed it. HR and Nathan were working together. They were creating fake performance issues to quietly push people out who got in the way of family. I didn't go to HR this time. I went straight to the CEO. Sent him a detailed report, everything I had. I didn't ask for a meeting. Just laid it out. Told him I didn't want anything other than for him to look at it and decide for himself. 3 days later, he replied, "Let's meet. Just you and me." The meeting was set for a Friday afternoon. I didn't sleep the night before. My hands were shaking as I walked into that room. Mr. Anderson looked tired. Like he hadn't slept either. He didn't say much at first. Just asked questions. Clarified some points. Asked how I got the files. I was honest. Then he leaned back and said something I'll never forget. I trusted the wrong people. He told me this wasn't the first time someone had come forward with similar concerns, but no one ever had proof before. What I had was solid. Names, dates, patterns, motivations. He thanked me. Then he said, "But it's not over." That was it. No promises. No outcome. Just those words. That was 3 days ago. I started watching everything and everyone after that meeting. Mr. Anderson hadn't said what he'd do, but the look on his face told me things were moving behind the scenes. The office got quiet again, but this time it felt like the silence before a storm. That's when I got an email. Anonymous. No name, just a burner-style address I didn't recognize. The subject line was, "You're not safe." Inside was a single sentence. "They're going to pin everything on you before the audit hits." Attached was a screenshot of a Slack conversation between Eliza and Nathan. Nathan. "Once the audit starts, he's the easiest fall guy. Old projects, shifted data, he signed off on the vendor changes. Just flag that." Eliza. "Make sure Anderson sees it first." It took me a second to realize what it meant. The audit. The company was about to get reviewed, external, probably financial. Maybe even compliance. It would explain why the pressure had been building. They weren't just trying to get rid of me out of spite. They were trying to frame me. The vendor changes they mentioned? I had signed off on them. But only because the finance team pushed the new vendor for cost savings. I didn't choose them. Just followed process. But in the wrong light, it could look like I greenlit a bad deal. I checked the Slack logs myself, again, thanks to the IT guy still riding his favor. What I saw made my stomach drop. There were already new messages planted in threads I wasn't a part of. Threads that made it look like I'd ignored warnings about the vendor. Like I'd pushed the deal solo. They were rewriting history. At that point, I realized I was outnumbered. Nathan had HR in his pocket. He clearly had connections in finance, too. And now it seemed like someone was altering records and internal systems. That meant IT wasn't clean either. My guy helped me because we were friends. But he told me straight up. "If this goes higher, I'm denying everything." I didn't blame him. The next day, Anderson's assistant called me. Another meeting. Same office. Only this time, she added, there will be others. It wasn't just the CEO. It was the company's legal team. And someone I didn't recognize at first. Tall guy in a gray suit didn't smile. Introduced himself as part of the external audit team. Suddenly, everything clicked. Anderson wasn't just investigating. He was preparing a defense. The meeting lasted 2 hours. They showed me spreadsheets, flagged transactions, forwarded emails that had been brought to their attention. Some looked real. Some didn't. Some had my name tagged in ways I'd never seen before. They were testing me. I walked through every step of every project they asked about. Dates. Vendors. Who initiated changes. Who signed off on budgets. I had emails backed up, hard copies of signatures, PDF timelines from old project boards I'd downloaded on instinct before things went sour. And I had the folder. The one with the Slack messages, the file access logs, the timestamp screenshots. When I laid it all out, the room got quiet. The auditor asked one question. Why didn't you come forward sooner? I answered honestly. Because the people I needed to trust were the ones pulling the strings. He nodded. Didn't say much else. Left the room. The lawyers followed. Anderson stayed behind. He looked me in the eye and said, this goes deeper than I thought. Then he said something I didn't expect. You're not the only one they tried to set up. He pulled out a file from his desk. Inside were names. 5 employees, all mid to senior level. All had left within the last 2 years under voluntary resignations, or internal transfers. He said he was reopening those cases. That one of them had filed a lawsuit after they left, but it was settled quietly before he ever saw the details. And then he told me one more thing. Eliza was on temporary leave. Effective immediately. And Nathan had been asked to cooperate fully with internal reviews. But here's the twist that changed everything. The anonymous email? It wasn't from a stranger. A week later, I was walking to my car in the parking garage when someone called my name. I turned and saw Sarah, former lead developer on a different team. She left 8 months ago. No big farewell, no drama. Just an exit. She was the one who sent the email. She'd been pushed out too. Same pattern, build a case, fake documentation, whisper campaign, and then a clean resignation to keep everything amicable. But she didn't forget. She'd been watching the company's movements from the outside. When she heard through a mutual contact that I was on performance review, she knew the pattern had started again. I figured if anyone would fight back, it'd be you, she said. I didn't know what to say. Just nodded. She handed me a flash drive. There's more. I haven't opened it yet. But I will. Because now it's not just about saving my job. It's about exposing everything. They tried to bury me. They didn't expect me to dig. I opened the flash drive that night. Inside were dozens of files. Meeting transcripts, expense reports, internal memos, stuff only someone deep inside the system would have had access to. Sarah had collected it before leaving. At first, I thought it was just more evidence of HR corruption. But the deeper I went, the clearer it became. The rot wasn't just Nathan or Eliza. It went higher. Mr. Thompson himself, CEO Anderson's brother-in-law, had been funneling money through vendor contracts. Inflated invoices, fake consulting firms, bogus training sessions. And every time someone asked questions, their performance dipped, and they were gone a few months later. One file stopped me cold. A whistleblower complaint. From last year. Sent directly to HR, then marked as resolved with internal mediation. The name on it? Sarah. She had tried to speak out. And they buried it. Now I had enough to take the whole thing apart. But I knew this couldn't be an email chain or a quiet handoff. This needed to happen where everyone could see it. So I planned. 2 weeks later, the company hosted its quarterly all-hands meeting. All the managers, leads, and execs gathered in the main auditorium. Anderson was there. Nathan too. Eliza was still on leave, but her presence hung in the air like a threat. I volunteered to present the quarterly project update. I was calm. Polite. Ran through my slides like normal. Numbers, charts, timelines. Then I stopped and said, before I wrap, I have a few things I need to address. The room shifted. You could feel it. Chairs creaked. Heads turned. I pulled up the next slide. It wasn't about my team. It was a timeline. Names, dates, resignations. Each one tied to a performance review. Each one tied to a project involving a vendor linked to Thompson or his consulting network. Whispers started. A few people looked uncomfortable. Then I said, for over 2 years, there's been a coordinated effort to silence employees who ask questions about how money is being spent. I clicked again. Screenshots. Emails. Slack messages. Vendor contracts. The forged Slack messages from my case. Silence. Then Anderson stood up. Nate, come with me. Nathan's face turned pale. What? I said come with me. Anderson repeated, his voice sharp. You too, security. That was the last anyone saw of Nathan in that building. The next hour was chaos. Some clapped. Some looked stunned. Some rushed out of the room, phones already in hand. HR looked like a dam had broken behind their eyes. After the meeting, Anderson called me into his office. Alone this time. He didn't yell. Didn't panic. He sat across from me and asked one question. How much more is there? I gave him the flash drive. He stared at it like it was burning a hole in his hand. I should have seen it, he said. He was family. I ignored it all because it was easier. I thought keeping the peace was worth it. He looked older in that moment. Not just tired, ashamed. I'm going to fix this, he said. I believed him. Mostly. The days that followed were surreal. Eliza resigned for personal reasons. HR got overhauled. An external legal firm started reviewing vendor contracts going back 5 years. Some of the managers who'd played along tried to distance themselves. One of them cornered me in the break room and said, I always knew something was off, but I didn't know how to speak up. I just stared at him. You didn't have to know how, I said. You just had to not stay quiet. Sarah was offered her job back. She declined. She was doing fine freelancing, and honestly, I don't blame her. Trust, once broken that badly, doesn't come back. And me? I stayed. For now. Not because I owed them anything. Not because I trusted them fully. But because I built something here, and I wasn't going to let them burn it down without a fight. The strange part? I wasn't even angry anymore. I'd spent months running on fury and betrayal, but now that the truth was out, I mostly felt relieved. Exhausted. But clear. Sometimes I walk past Nathan's old desk. It's empty now, but I swear it hums with the weight of everything that happened. I don't know what the future holds. Maybe I'll move on eventually. Maybe I'll stay and make sure this place doesn't slide back into darkness. But I do know this. The next time someone walks in with a smug grin and thinks they can coast on connections, they'll find me waiting. And I won't stay quiet.